Here we are at site 6, the lookout. This site is the highest point in Botanical Gardens. By taking a quick look around, you can see that this area is bright and open, so a lot of light and a heat, but it can also be windy and cold as it is completely exposed. This area is an example of primary succession. Primary succession occurs in areas that have not previously been occupied by plants and are not capable of supporting life. For example, newly formed sand dunes, lava flow, and in this case, the bare rock left behind by a glacier. This area was covered in ice 12 to 15,000 years ago, and as the ice advanced and retreated, it left behind bare sedimentary rock. For a combination of processes over hundreds of years, the rock was converted to soil in certain areas. Biological processes include the growth of lichens, which are shown here. Lichens are the first inhabitants, and they create acidic waste products which erode and break down rocks. Then small plants can grow in the cracks, which you can see here. The water within these plants, and also from the environment, freezes and expands in the winter, increasing the size of the cracks, which can be seen throughout. Chemical processes include sulfurs, carbons, and other acids found in rain. Eventually, there is enough soil to support the growth of grasses, which can be seen here. These grasses further modify the soil, which is then colonized by other types of plants. Some of the other types of plants that are specifically adapted for the harsh conditions here include blueberries, which you're seeing here, mountain holly, which is this bush here, which has bright red berries when they're fully ripe, and chocolate pear, which is this tree here, which has bluish, reddish, violetish berries when they're fully ripe. As this area is on top of the hill, the rain and the wind takes the nutrients from here and moves them downhill. So you can easily see the correlation between soil quality and the plant health / size. The small stunted vegetation that occurs here gets larger and healthier as you move down the hill and increase the soil quality. And we can also see how the different microhabitats within the boreal forest are created. Here we are at site 7, the burned area. There was a large and really intense fire here back in 1961. As this site had an existing community before the fire, it would be an example of secondary succession. However, the fire was so hot that it destroyed all organic matter, including the entire plant seed bank, and thereby returned the site to a more lifeless area as you'd see in the initial stages of primary succession. This is compounded by the fact that there's lots of wind erosion, and it is particularly dry due to high drainage. Due to these reasons, and despite the sunlight, regrowth of this area has been slow. And this is why, even though there's a large variety of plants, most of them are either pioneer species or species specialized for harsh environments. For example, here we see reindeer moss. Reindeer moss is actually a lichen, and it is well suited to survive in dry areas. Here we have sheep laurel, which is similar to bog laurel, except sheep laurel has leaves above the flower. We also have alders. One interesting thing to note is that sheep laurel and alders secrete pheromones that inhibit other plants from growing in close proximity. This is an example of inter-specific competition. We also have dogberry trees shown here and blueberries shown here. The stumped growth of the plants is due to low nutrients and or to avoid the wind. Here are some examples of some trees having a bit of difficulty growing. Here we are at site 8A. This site is at the bottom of the hill next to the pond behind me. Hopefully you know by now that this area is an ecotone because there are two adjacent ecosystems. When one of the ecosystems is a body of water, which is shown here, this is a portion of Oxen Pond, it is a specific type of ecotone called a riparian zone. This portion of the riparian zone is particularly interesting because we can actually see the pond starting to fill in with organic matter, leaves, sticks, etc., which are shown here. When it fills in completely, it will become a fen, just like we saw earlier. Here we are at site 8B. This site is along the trail next to the pond, so still in the riparian zone. I stopped here so that I can point out some of the plant species that are commonly found in the riparian zone. Here we can see an aspen tree. This species was introduced to Newfoundland. Here we can see a birch tree. And along the river's edge you have various types of ferns shown here and grasses shown here. Here we are at our final stop. This is Site 9, the duck feeding area at Botanical Gardens. This is the lowest point in the entire gardens. This is the collecting area for nutrients, seeds, etc., which have been brought here by the wind and water from the top of the hill or elsewhere. It is very rich in organic and inorganic chemicals, and it provides a special habitat for lots of plants and animals. We can see cattails here, which are an introduced species. There are lots of insects. There are fish such as trout, birds such as osprey, kingfishers, and ducks shown here, and mammals such as muskrats. Lots of these animals spend several or all parts of their life cycle here and are closely interconnected with the life cycles of the other animals.